Oh, hey Ian. Are you ready to reveal the next expansion to the crowd today?
Oh, hi Josh. Yeah, we're really excited. I think the world is really gonna love what we've got in store.
That's right, Ian. Keep talking. Tell the fool what he wants to hear.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was playing on my shaman the other day, and something happened that made me think, yeah, I'm really excited about going to the Shadowlands next year.
Oh, Shadowlands is not the next expansion.
What?
Yeah, we thought about it, and we're not going to the Shadowlands after all.
But people have been really excited about Shadowlands for months since the leaks. Well, what's the new expansion going to be then?
Okay, hear me out. I present to you Shadow of the Warfront.
What?
It turns out that at the very end of BFA, we don't kill N'Zoth, and he uses his awesome tentacle powers to manipulate the world in crazy ways.
That actually sounds quite good.
Yeah, and we have to stop him taking over the entire world, or specifically, Warfronts.
Warfronts?
Yeah, N'Zoth is particularly interested in Stromgarde and Darkshore, and we've got tentacles on them now, and it's the kind of repeatable, grindable content that has massive replay value. I think the player base is gonna love it.
Yes. Think of the development time saved for new mobile titles. Think of the playtime metrics. Behold, the ultimate expansion.
Behold, the ultimate expansion.
There's something wrong here. It's the Eye of N'Zoth. It's corrupting you.
No! Get back! It's a really important part of my transmog!
Ian, are you okay? Are you back to yourself?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Thanks, Josh.
How can we be sure? Wait. Ian, where is the PvP vendor?
I don't know. I've never been able to find it.
Welcome back.
Knowledge is power.
Hello, Internet, and hello, Anaheim, California. And welcome to the weekly reset, Taliesin Evitel's wondrous wisdom show. In this BlizzCon special, live from BlizzCon live episode, or recorded live if you're watching the recording, where we will be discussing loads of important and varied topics, such as the new World of Warcraft expansion, Shadowlands. And nothing else, obviously, because why would we want to talk about anything else? And honestly, even if we did, what else would we talk about? Do you want us to talk about the Diablo 4 trailer? Is that what you want? Is the fact that I see it every time I close my eyes not enough for you? No, sorry. On this episode, it is Shadowlands all the way, because we now know, almost for the first time, what the future of WoW will be. We know where we'll be having our future adventures, the new names of the new things that we'll be grinding for the new whatevers that we'll need to get the new good stuffs. We've had glimpses of what those new good stuffs will look like, and we've had the promises of how much fun and interestingness it will be to do all of that. But for many of us, the truly exciting thing about Shadowlands is not the new plane of existence that it takes place in, not the mysterious, ominous big bad peering menacingly through the shadows lands, not even the back pieces or disturbingly buff owl things. It's the feeling that Shadowlands appears to offer something of a reset to our favourite game, changing it in subtle yet substantial ways forever. But let us start from the beginning of this year's BlizzCon adventure with the opening ceremony. Although maybe not from the very start, because obviously that would involve talking about, looking at, or otherwise even slightly thinking about the Diablo 4 trailer, and I promised myself I wouldn't do that because I'd really like to be able to sleep tonight without waking up screaming multiple times, if that's okay. So for us, BlizzCon began with Ian Hazakostis, Sassmeister, quick change extraordinaire game director of WoW, giving us the news that we had gathered patiently to receive and deliver unto us the truth. Were the leaks real? And if so, which of the over 60 leaks were real? What would be the new class that everyone agreed was definitely going to feature? How would the absolute guaranteed dissolving of the factions work exactly? And just how many videos would Belial be able to separate all this information out into? Can anyone do a live check? How many are we on right now? Anyone? At last count, at 2 a.m. last night, our time, it was 5 in 2 days, which is a terrifyingly low number. Nowhere near enough to sate his thirst. If you live in Belfast, seriously, please, lock your doors and windows. This is not a joke. Your life may depend on it. And when the expansion reveal came, sorry, did you have a number? 6! I feel a bit safer, but not much. And when the expansion reveal came, it came, unusually, in the form of the cinematic trailer itself. The one that had been leaked a few days before from what was apparently a hacked printer in the build-up to BlizzCon. The one with that awesome badass Bolvar in his awesome Lich King armor, being all awesome and Lich King. And man, I don't care who you are, okay? It is super fun to see the Lich King being so badass after so many years. And we got to enjoy that awesome badass new Lich King for exactly 2 minutes and 33 seconds before Sylvanas soloed him, looted him, and then disenchanted the gear. GG. And if Diablo 4 is the reason I haven't been able to sleep properly since Friday, then Sylvanas being about to put on the Helm of Damnation and take her rightful place as Lich Queen, making me turn around and look at complete strangers excitedly, going, oh my god, she's gonna do it, before ripping the thing in two, that's the reason I haven't been able to orgasm. And I was so close. She was so close. Instead, the sky shatters into, like, genuinely one of the most spectacular moments I've ever seen in WoW. A whole new plane of existence opens up about Icecrown, and the Shadowlands is here. And by the way, pre-purchasable. And you'll forgive me, but if that isn't worth then genuinely, I don't know what is. Interestingly though the title of the expansion was the same, this isn't the big Shadowlands leak with the map, or even the second one with the cinematic still. As the features trailer revealed, this was a Shadowlands that none of the big celebrated leaks had successfully leaked at all, featuring zones and factions and mobs and systems completely different from what those leaks had leaked, which means we can now stop calling those leaks leaks at all and instead refer to them by what they really are, fanfic, which managed to guess literally one word right. 2 if you count expansion, but I'm not sure we should.
It doesn't count.
No. And this is good news, partly because it's good when leaks aren't really leaks, because you don't get leaked on, but also because what we are getting with the real Shadowlands is, in my opinion, far superior to what the fanfics had ficked. Even if it took a while to realise exactly what that was. Because after the cinematic, which we will be making a proper cinematic analysis video for when we get home, we got a features trailer, which didn't really tell us any of the features. Showing us the 4 main zones and telling us how important the covenants that live there would be, and something about a Tower of the Damned, which, okay, sounds like super edgelord, so obviously I'm in, but I have no idea what it is. And basically, that was it. No new class revealed, which was obviously some kind of mistake, because obviously there would be a new class, not even the usual quest to level whatever. It was pretty bare bones, honestly, and a little underwhelming. After so much hype in the build-up, and such a great start with the cinematic, and I'll admit, I left that mythic stage a little confused. And then I was a little bit worried that I was a little bit confused. Because the last time I'd been a bit confused at an expansion reveal was 2 years ago when I thought, you know, I'm a little bit confused about how those war fronts are going to work. But whatever, I'm sure it'll be fine. And on the one hand, it was weird that Blizz was keeping things about the new expansion a secret in the expansion reveal. That seems a little excessive and inappropriate secret keeping at this stage. But on the other hand, the WoW What's Next panel was just a short hour and a quarter away, and that was bound to fill us in on all of the details that we craved so much. It would be silly to be too worried or disappointed. And that's a feeling that was definitely shared on the forums, where the player base had their appetites for Shadowlands well and truly whetted, and set about discussing their excitement and enthusiasm for this new, beautiful, tantalizingly mysterious new expansion, with just the kind of optimism, imagination, and no, it was a shit show, obviously. I didn't even have to tell you to do it. This was the most disappointing expansion reveal in the history of the game! I don't even know what to say. What even is this? Looks lame, just more proof that Ian and his team has no clue. The trailer was sadly more than enough to show that Ian and his team is just bad now WoW lore is dead. But I can understand a general sense of being underwhelmed right at the very beginning there. And it wasn't until the What's Next panel and Saturday's deep dive that my excitement really began to take shape, as I learned more about the features that Shadowlands will offer, and started to get the feeling that this expansion really does represent almost a cleaning of the slate. I mean, just generally, the con got better as it went on this year anyway, because I don't know if you heard this or not. I mean, you probably heard it, right? But I'm just going to play it for you, just in case you didn't.
So, Steve, are you saying that Taliesin was right all along?
That's what I heard, too. Taliesin was right.
Are you saying that's canon?
Well,
Could you repeat that again? I don't think he heard it.
Thanks, Steve.
As much as it pains me to do something that makes you happy, Taliesin.
Yes, that's Ian Hazakostis, Morgan Day, and Steve Danusa confirming that Taliesin was right is actually now canon in front of 40,000 people. I don't know why I brought that up, it's not really relevant, so actually I don't know why you even mentioned it, it's not important. Just in case you hadn't heard it, that's all. But as far as Shadowlands is concerned, it seems like your opening week or so of play is going to feel something like this. We will level through the 4 questing zones of the Shadowlands and getting totally in with the resident covenant of each one. The Kyrians of Bastion, the Necro-Lords of Maldraxxus. Yeah, I know. The Night Fae of Ardenweald and the Venthyr of Revendreth, who will each reward you 2 new abilities, one general movement-based one and a class-specific one. Now, these zones can't be leveled through in any order, like Legion or BFA, instead forcing you to follow the story in a linear fashion. And then at max level, which is now 60 after starting Shadowlands at 50, because psych level Squish, more on that later, you will have to make a choice as to which covenant you are going to partner with full time. This will then give you access to essentially a covenant order hall and set you off on a covenant specific max level campaign, which is supposedly comparable to Suramar in its depth and involvement, and which will reward you with cool specific things like mounts, armor, including those cool back pieces, which are totally a thing now. And look, just to go off on a slight back piece tangent here, we've all seen the cool Bastion wings and sigils, but what about the Night Fae fairy wings? Or the Necro-Lord's Kerrigan bony bits? Or Venthyr's just actual tombstones strapped onto your back? This covenant choice can be changed, but you will lose significant progress if you do. Kind of like if you wanted to respec your artifact weapon in Legion. So it's essentially something that you would want to avoid, meaning that you should think very hard about exactly why you are choosing Venthyr. Because let's face it, you're definitely choosing Venthyr. They get a tombstone strapped to their backs. The covenant you choose will also give you access to specific soul binds, characters you bind yourself to with their own essentially talent trees to progress and unlock. Now, your choices here aren't so set in stone and can be changed in any rested area, and in this way, covenants really are supposed to be the central gameplay rotation mechanic to replace the Heart of Azeroth and the artifacts before it. And as a system, it's definitely got a lot of personality and choice and customization and RPG potential. It sounds really cool, as does the max level zone, the Maw. The central focus here is the Tower of the Damned, an endless roguelike procedurally generated tower for 1 to 5 players that will change every time you play through it and offer rewards of, among other things, that mystical anima. The very new system that sounds suspiciously like AP, but definitely isn't AP, okay? Because we've been promised that the endless AP grind is over. It's definitely not AP. Blizz has promised that this tower will have seasons where the enemy types will be completely replaced, and Ian has compared it to the Mage Tower, which, I'm sorry, but I just do not buy at all. I'm not saying that Tower of the Damned isn't great, but I liked the Mage Tower specifically because I could win it. I was specifically trying to win it, and my satisfaction came mostly from winning it. Hopefully the charms of the Tower of the Damned will be slightly different, because there's no winning the Tower of the Damned. And yeah, I know Ian uses that comparison because if you want, it's a single player challenge that you can take in your own time, but for me, it lacks that most important defining element of the Mage Tower, and I find it a bit of a misleading comparison as a result. Now, the zone itself is even more mysterious. The surrounding area is also supposed to kick your ass, offering powerful mobs that are meant to be a serious challenge, and where extended activity will draw the attention of the Jailer, who will send assassins or hunting parties your way, meaning that excursions into the Maw need to be quick and deliberate. Oh yeah, and the Jailer, one of my favourite things about the entire expansion so far. A new major lore character, best buddies with Sylvanas since, it turns out, Edge of Night, the short story from just before Cataclysm, mysterious, shadowy, but there. And I feel I can't really overstate how important that is, because after Legion and BFA and really Warlords of Draenor too, a big baddie right there from the start, just a badass silhouette, which may even prove to be a fake out in some way, but still gives us, as a player base, something that we can latch onto, talk about, theorize and speculate on, which already gives Shadowlands more focus and purpose than BFA has ever really managed, even if the Jailer ends up being a red herring and the real enemy is completely different. So who is he? Well, Murzala, obviously, but what is he? Why is he? How is he? That's a question we don't ask enough. I'm genuinely keen to find out, and I look forward to finding out, and if nothing else, Shadowlands has managed that.
But there's plenty of other features to talk about in Shadowlands, and I don't want this to be a straight-up list of stuff because, well, that's boring. But more importantly, pointless, when honestly, Wowhead is much better suited to gathering up all the very specifics and presenting them in a clear, easy-to-digest way. We're going to put seriously like 1,000 links in the description below, probably. And another thing is that this information is constantly updating and being clarified. As an example, it was revealed at around 1 AM last night that essences would not become account bound in 8.3, but some of the requirements involving outdated content might be relaxed. Wowhead don't give a media source for this information, saying only, "We have learned from Ian Hezekiah, ... And the article went up at like 1 AM. He totally got drunk and said this to one of you at a party, right? Yes. Like, this is Ian totally downing the beers and getting loose, and as such should be treated about as seriously as when Taliesin has had a glass of wine and tells everyone that he once beat Beja in an arm wrestle. When what really happened was they walked past each other in a corridor once and Beja kind of touched his arm. And the brilliant thing is, Perculia from Wowhead is totally here today. So we are totally going to find out if that's true, and we just did. But in instead, I'd like to give you the rundown of my own personal favorite new things in Shadowlands. And you'll notice that in all these choices, there's something of a recurring theme. The idea of a clean slate or a fresh start in one way or another. Like the weirdly buff owl things. Or swolkins, as they are known. And this isn't even a joke because it represents something quite important. Where the expansion is set. A different plane of existence, like an actual different part of the cosmology chart, separate from our reality. It gives the designers and writers a complete fresh slate, unrestricted by the history, events, and possibilities that are so deeply ingrained in Azeroth. So we have these amazing high-concept zones with all the rich potential for completely new lore, and societies that don't have to follow the established rules or timeline. There's something very freeing about that, and exciting to learn about. I like the new leveling path and how it will apply to old and new players. The idea of the level squish isn't universally loved across the player base yet, but I personally think it's long overdue. My progress playing this game for the last 10 years or so is still there in all the achievements, collections, reputations, transmog mounts, pets, friends, all other things that my character has. All of which is more important and meaningful than what number is written next to my portrait. And it means that those extra 10 levels we gain in Shadowlands feel proportionately more impactful too. 10 levels out of 60 being set in current content as opposed to 10 levels out of 130 puts a greater emphasis on the current content. And the new leveling system? The chance to progress from 10 to 50 through any one single expansion story in its entirety? Well, you know we think that's a brilliant idea because it's the solution we proposed to the problem of leveling feeling unfocused and inconsistent back in July. And look, they obviously didn't get the idea from us. I'm not saying they did, but Taliesin was right, is canon now. Do I have to say that?
Every day.
Despite the fact that most of his 9.0 predictions turned out to be wrong. But it's canon, and you can't argue with canon. I especially like how they're treating new players with this change, requiring them to play the very first 10 levels of their lives by leveling through the Exile's Reach, an island area with a contained storyline designed to introduce you to the world and the basic concepts of play, culminating in a 2-boss mini-dungeon before you level 10 to 50 through the latest expansion, which when Shadowlands releases will of course be BFA. Sure, I can see the problems with this system. An island, then an expansion as a leveling experience, risks diluting that sense of wonder at the sheer size of the world you've joined as a new player. A problem which actually won't be so bad as new players level through BFA, because it's an expansion that rather handily takes you all around the old world and other continents. But consider this, when 10.0 comes out in 3 years' time, new players will level through Exile's Reach and then Shadowlands. By the time they get to the current expansion, they will barely have set foot on actual live Azeroth at all. But that's a problem for later. At the moment, it's an exciting, fresh start that shows the game to new players in the best possible light. And the level squish should make the whole experience more meaningful, with the promise of something new at every milestone. Oh yeah, and of course, 70% faster too, there's that. But I'm sure no one cares about that. I like the supposed emphasis on player agency and deterministic rewards. I mean, at the moment, and until we see how any of this will work, it's really just words. But they are really nice words, with less RNG and crafting the gear you want, a selection of choices from your weekly chest, and the new crafted legendary system, which I suspect is really going to form the main individual character goal of Shadowlands endgame in 9.0. That'll be the grind, getting the currency or power you need to create a Legion-style legendary with effects and abilities you have chosen, rather than relying on that infuriating and often crushingly disappointing random drop. The reason to be doing your world quests and tower runs, Mythic Plus and Battlegrounds every week? I've got a feeling it'll be the promise of the new legendary that keeps you doing that in the long term. And I like that. You're working towards a long-term goal, a gear drop that you have complete control over. One of those little influences from Classic that has seeped back into the current game, perhaps. Again, it feels like a fresh start of sorts. And, of course, I love the new character customization options, of which many have been promised. It might not be as immediate a hook as a new class or race, and I want to be clear, I am still a bit sore about the lack of a new class in Shadowlands, okay? It's not like the game really needs a new class right now, but to me, the very best expansions always seem to have one. And then there's the fact that we've had our Tinker video literally pinned to the top of our channel for the best part of a year now. We were that confident in it, and we feel a bit foolish, but damn it, Blizz, I just want my mech suit. Yes, I admit, it totally doesn't fit the theme of the Shadowlands, but that's exactly why it's so glorious. What could possibly be more pure goblin or gnome than trampling through the pristine and heavenly bastion, or Ardenweald, in a greasy, polluting, stupid-ass machine with lasers on it? The answer is none. There is none more goblin and gnome, but I'm not going to dwell on it because the new customization options are long overdue and super exciting. And if the resources saved from implementing a new class or race means we get as many new options as possible, then it could work out best in the long run, even if it's not such an obvious selling point of a new expansion as Tinker's would have been. Yes, the new troll skins look great, and the Wildhammer dwarves tick a lot of wish list boxes, but for me, the new human racial appearances are like a dream come true. The lack of these options, and there are more promised than we've been shown, has always been something that felt, honestly, a bit embarrassing to me about WoW before. It's not lore-breaking because we've always had the option to give our human characters these skin tones. All we're getting is the facial features to match. They look totally baller, and even though it's 15 years late, it makes me feel a little more proud of this game. Most importantly, they look awesome / lit. And basically every Alliance zone is going to be full of really hot Asian female alts the second Shadowlands drops, and how can that possibly be a bad thing? The thing that really excites me about Shadowlands is that the more I learn about it, the more excited I am about it. What it lacks in immediate hooks, like a new class or a new artifact system for that initial wow factor, it appears to be making up with deeper, more important changes. After the success of Legion, many of us wanted BFA to run with and iterate on the systems from that expansion, which didn't so much result in Legion 2.0 as much as Legion's slightly less attractive younger brother. The Luke Hemsworth to Legion's Chris. I know. Although I still really like BFA, but don't tell anyone I want to be cool and loved. Shadowlands already feels like a brand new game in a way that BFA didn't, and as someone who loves World of Warcraft, that's super exciting to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to our special guests for this afternoon in our panel. Beja from the Instant Podcast. And also Pixels and the Phileas Club. I'd like to introduce you to Bay, final boss to TV himself. And, of course, to the person who indirectly writes every episode of the Weekly Reset, Perculia from Wowhead. And we tricked you into coming here, basically, so that we could pick your brains and get even more valuable insight about what's been happening at BlizzCon and our feelings about Shadowlands as well. Yeah. So, Patrick, if we could start with you, please. What was your sort of initial reaction to the Shadowlands announcement and news?
The cinematic was awesome, and then I was like you. I was like, wait, what? So what's happening? But I think in the end, they managed to show us enough of the intent of the expansion that it's getting a lot of people excited. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people. And beyond that, this BlizzCon was important for Blizzard in many ways, and I think that they've managed, for the most part, for the people who are following them and who want to like them, to give us reasons to at least start thinking we can root for them again. I mean, I'm a shill, so I always like them, but for the community, I feel, they're starting to turn a corner, and especially with Shadowlands, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, they saw how well Classic did, and they finally listened, which is, I think, literally the title of every other Midwiller's video. But it obviously they've been thinking about this and working on it for a long time. So I think it's important to remember that they're aware of everything that's happening, and sometimes they have to start to try new things. Sometimes they don't work out as well as they would have hoped. And last year, or last expansion, we were coming off of the high of Legion. So we were all like super hyped, and when BFA wasn't as good as we would have hoped, the other drug metaphors, the downer was super downer. But now, since we're starting at BFA, maybe the Shadowlands is going to be much more exciting. Than
You're just saying there's a lower bar to clear, basically.
No, but I mean, I think for many people, Legion was probably, if you discount nostalgia, the best expansion they had ever done. So it was difficult to live up to that. And now, yes, the bar is lower.
Bay, from a kind of a systems point of view, I know that some people have called Shadowlands, they've said it sounds quite feature-light in some ways, because you are missing the obvious hooks of like a new class or something like that. What's your take on that? Is there enough there?
Well, I first want to go back to Patrick real quick by saying I like to meet a fellow shill, so we're all
we're all friends.
There's if you look under your seats, there's some big brown envelopes of cash.
Oh.
In fact, if you all look under your seats, you get shill money. You get shill money. You all get shill money. You don't. We can't afford that. Look at these lights.
As neat as the dressings and the sprinkles or whatever you want on your cake or your salad, we still don't know how the Covenant system is going to feel. There's always like that PowerPoint that I think that Blizzard seems to develop out instead of in and then out. They start out here with all the foliage and all the dressings and the toppings. So we'll see, because how you play your character and how you interact with the game, how you progress your character is like the really if that's what you do first, right? If you don't have fun playing your character or gearing your character, it doesn't matter how fun the Tower of the Damned is. It doesn't matter how fun the new dungeons are. If you're just not having fun with your rotation and your buttons or your talent choices, so that really falls, I think, now on Halinka returning, as he is essentially, as I was confirmed, he is the director of combat, and that is everything for him. So that's the first thing we need to work on.
So it's good. We know who to blame.
And as usual, it's Halinka.
Again. So that's a really key point. And then I hope that the stuff on top of it is the fun part, because I even brought up the other day to the Method guys that the Tower of the Damned itself could be like a community-run PvE event. You could do time trials and run how far can you get solo in an hour? How far can you get with a 5-man in an hour? Right? How far can you get with no healer? All these things you can actually work on that we can all curate together, and that's really exciting, not just Mythic Dungeons and things of that nature, because we already have the MDI, it's already been successful for 2 expansions in a row now, and that'll keep evolving. But where do we get the power of anime? Where do we get these relics that we slot into our soul binds? Are there multiple soul binds? Are they all different soul binds? Are the relic things consumable? Is it like another like Crucible? All these things get layered on. That's the system stuff that we still don't know.
Yeah, and that's something I'm finding a bit disconcerting is I know that anime is like the power, right? That you have to collect. Okay? And Ian has said that you don't have to grind it. So what happens if I don't? Like, how far behind do I get, and what am I getting behind in?
The only thing
what's the worst that can happen if I don't?
Only thing Ian said was that there is an amount you get. He did use the phrase Valor Cap.
Yes.
Which might go, So, because having a point that you can get to on a character and feel like you're done, Ian equated to keeping the lights on in your Covenant for the week. And beyond that, there's no power gain, but it would work towards either your character's story, unlocking new quests, unlocking new cosmetics, which we've seen there's tons of them already.
Moving on from like gameplay systems and things completely, one of the most intriguing things, as I said in our little section earlier, for me, about this as an expansion is the presence of a big bad. Perculia, what's your thoughts on the lore implications for the jailer? Everyone wants to know.
So first off, I think Ian, for the 3rd year running, said that the data mining was right at the end of the opening ceremony. So I guess whatever I data mine, well, that's who the jailer is. But sadly, we don't have the beta yet. So I'm really excited about having a big bad, and it ties a lot of threads together, and it just makes so much more sense now. Like, you follow Sylvanas in Edge of Night, and there's the question of when did the jailer start to take over? When did the souls get messed up? Because, Sylvanas wasn't that powerful in MoP and Warlords and Legion. But then all the souls in Teldrassil went to the Maw. So what changed in Legion? And even Vol'jin was sent back. And I think the jailer told Vol'jin to appoint Sylvanas as the war chief, and then the Helia is getting stronger, so I think Helia is involved with the jailer. Sylvanas in Stormheim was talking to Helia, being like, hey, I'm war chief now, the plan's working out. The Arbiter brought Vol'jin back, and then sometime maybe related to Argus, the Death Titan, when we defeated him, then things started to go wrong, and then Sylvanas was able to pull more souls into the Maw, because she started getting really powerful. She wasn't that powerful in the Legion cinematic. I mean, she looked badass,
but she was absent a lot.
Right. She was like throwing her bow around, but she wasn't blasting people with death magic. But then in BFA, she's in Banshee form, so I think something must have happened right at the end of Legion that caused her to start gaining a lot of momentum.
It really makes you feel like maybe they've been planning this for a while, and that there isn't a big red button that you push to deploy new story to please the people.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually, because I believe that to a certain extent, but then, taking it all the way back to Edge of Night, are you the kind of person that gets annoyed because you think of this as a retcon?
I don't think it was a retcon, because a lot of threads from that Wrath Cataclysm era are still developing and paying off. And even going back to Classic and the Night Elves, when you play Classic, you're like, wow, the tree sounds really corrupt, and there's weird old god forces in Darkshore. What's going on? And you're like, oh, this is now playing a role in Legion with the Emerald Nightmare, and maybe why the tree was sort of not being protected in BFA. And I think it was intended. I mean, they were saying they plan expansions way in advance. And we've seen so many threads paying off, like the Remnant of the Void in Legion, then showing up in the 8.2 questline, so many things like that.
Final question.
Yeah.
Is the jailer the final boss of Shadowlands?
Yes.
Well, you would know.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Can we just go around the table and say how excited you are for Shadowlands, and for whatever reason and whatever doubts or whatever you might have, Patrick?
80%? Yeah, 70 to 80%. We need to know more. I think there's promise.
Not take a cop out and appreciate a fellow Shielancer, but I'm in that same 80%ish, because they can show us all this the player agency we get with the customizing our characters, but then there's that, well, if I want to be a super edgelord vampire, but their abilities aren't the best for what I want to play, then I have to be a frou-frou, elven satyr. So then you get that really weird conundrum.
That's the reverse for me. I want to be a frou-frou shiny fox.
Sorry, I'm with you, actually.
With me? Oh, okay.
See,
All right. So much in common.
Beautiful things happened here today.
So I started off as an 80, but I moved up to a 90 because there were confirmed more Pepe costumes in Shadowlands.
Oh, there it is.
And one of the interviews with Blizzard Watch confirmed that Tyrande is having a larger role in Shadowlands, in the nature theme zone I can't pronounce.
Arden Wheel.
And yes.
With us.
That's the one. And yeah. And we're going to learn more about some mysteries, and she was saying that she wanted to investigate the mystery of why Elune abandoned her children. So I'm really excited about seeing that story finally come to light. And yeah, I'm Night Elf for life.
And
Very
just
excited.
because those boys did, what's your covenant of choice?
I don't know. I mean, Bastion has the really cute Pepe and Rowlet people in them, but then you have the Nature Zone, and then I wear mostly black all the time, so maybe I should go with the Goth people. So I don't know. I'm having this crisis.
And what's your covenant, Evitel?
Ooh, well, firstly, I'm going to give this a solid 85% hype.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the customization options. I'm really excited for all of these potential little things to make the game feel new and refreshed. I know we keep saying that, but I'm ready for it to feel like I'm in a different place and in a different game. As for my covenant of choice, it's actually going to be Bastion. Purely for the owl people.
So good.
Like, they're, amazing. Yeah, what do you
ladies and
think,
gentlemen,
Tally?
I'm probably like 110% hyped.
Oh, yeah.
And which covenant?
I would
Which
be.
covenant?
Yeah, which
But that's,
covenant?
Covenant, definitely the vampire people. Like, have you seen the tombstone? Either or the necro lords, because come on. It's amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Can we have a round of applause for our special guest? And thank you in the audience for joining us, and thank you at home for joining us today. If you liked this episode, don't thank us, thank our patrons here today who make all of our videos possible. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Perculia.
That was going to be mine.
Unlucky. No, my name is Taliesin. From me,
And me, Evitel.
until next time, cheerio. There's not going to be a next time. What are you talking about?